Lively accuses Baldoni of sexual harassment on the set of their film and a smear campaign against her. Mr. Baldoni denies those allegations, claiming the actress is attempting to damage his reputation.
Just when you thought this dumpster fire couldn't get any worse, Blake Lively's lawyer just quit. But why, you might ask? Well, that's because a bombshell update in her lawsuit against Justin Baldoni and Wayfair Studios completely shook up her case. 1 minute it looked like Blake was about to take down Hollywood heavyweights, and the next, her lawyer realized the case had no legs to stand on. So what exactly went wrong, and how did everything fall apart so fast?
Hollywood drama. Everyone is talking about the legal battle between Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni. Baldoni's legal team releasing some of the raw video from their film It Ends With Us, saying the footage shows the actors, quote,
Blake's lawsuit against Justin Baldoni and Wayfair Studios started with so much drama that you couldn't help but feel like you were watching a soap opera unfold in real time. The case was centered around some pretty heavy allegations of sexual harassment, body shaming, and breastfeeding mistreatment. Never thought I'd say those words in that order. Anyway, if those aren't the ingredients for a public sympathy play, I don't know what is.
Could this backfire for Baldoni?
So videos like this, I think, what everybody is getting at is a bit of a dual-edged sword, because you're already starting to see people on social media and other avenues kind of be like, I'm Team Justin.
Blake is a Hollywood darling. It wasn't just making a quiet accusation. She was accusing her co-star and director of creating a toxic work environment. These kinds of accusations can make anybody's heart go out to her, especially since it involves something as personal as breastfeeding mistreatment. People started rallying behind her, and the media, as they often do, picked up the story like wildfire. It felt like the ultimate David versus Goliath, Hollywood glamour against the big bad boys of the industry.
And they might even bring up the idea of, like, look at her past and other movies that she's made when she's been comfortable with co-stars. And so I think it's really going to come down to interpretation, and this more divides and I think helps one side or the other.
But here's the catch. As the case started rolling, it became pretty obvious that the claims might not be as solid as they seemed. At first, everything was set up to pull at your heartstrings. You had the sexual harassment angle, you had the body shaming, the whole mistreated mother narrative. All the pieces were there to make Blake seem like the victim in a very public, very relatable way. The thing is, as much as we wanted to believe it, the evidence just wasn't stacking up.
Footage, live footage, unedited, uncut footage from the film, which they're saying refutes her allegations in their entirety. Lively says this is tainting the jury pool. So
no documents, no messages, not even a single shred of proof. It was like watching a magician perform without ever revealing how the trick is done. Everybody was rooting for her at first, but the deeper the case went, the more it started feeling like smoke and mirrors. Allegations are easy to make, but without the backup to prove them, they all start to fall apart and fast.
For Justin Baldoni is his lawyer, Brian Friedman, who's represented a lot of people. I mean, one Google search will overwhelm you, but Brian is with us right now.
Say hello to Merle Conant, Blake's lawyer, entering this case with the weight of the world on her shoulders. She had a high-profile client, a case that was getting major media attention, and some serious allegations to defend. But here's the thing, she didn't have the evidence to back it up. From the get-go, it seemed like Blake's team was trying to make something out of nothing, and let me tell you, her lawyer felt that pressure big time. She was probably hoping that something would come through, some piece of evidence that could prove Blake's claims. But guess what? Nothing ever did.
A lawsuit against the New York Times. Then they publish 170 pages of perfectly documented texts and emails between all the parties that basically show Blake to be the aggressor. Here's the proof.
You know, it's one thing to defend a case when you've got solid evidence, but it's a whole different story when you're trying to defend smoke and mirrors. I can't even imagine the level of stress that her lawyer must have been under. Every time they thought they had a breakthrough, it turned into quicksand. There were no emails, there were no texts, no documented conversations to back up Blake's accusations. And when you're fighting in a case like this against powerful people like Justin Baldoni and Wayfair Studios, you need something concrete. Conant was left trying to put together a defense based on nothing but hope and vague allegations. You know, that's like trying to build a house on quicksand. It's just bound to collapse.
You know, we've seen, most recently today, I saw they released to TMZ a voicemail message that Baldoni Yeah, pretty interesting.
When Brian Fredman, Justin Baldoni's lawyer, stepped onto the scene, things started to get interesting. Fredman wasn't just going to sit back and let Blake Lively's accusations ruin his clients' lives. He had a mission, and it was clear from the start that he was playing hardball. His bombshell update was like a legal grenade that blew the whole case wide open. As soon as Fredman dropped that update, Blake's case went into free fall and everybody could see it.
Perspectives here. It seems that there is a new report on social media every time I log on about this case. There's a lot of noise out there. But what's this all about from a legal perspective?
Fredman's legal strategy was brilliant. He didn't just stand there and defend his client, he went on the offensive, tearing apart everything that Blake's team had tried to build. His main argument? That Blake's accusations were completely unsupported. There were no facts, no evidence, and no real basis for the claims she was making. Every time Blake's legal team tried to present something that might look like evidence, Fredman exposed it as flimsy or outright fabricated. It wasn't just a legal argument, it was a masterclass in dismantling a case piece by piece.
Cast him in an unfavorable light. When the New York Times got involved and printed out so much of the transcripts of texts and allegations, I felt it.
The New York Times, a media giant that's practically synonymous with trust and credibility, somehow found itself tangled up in Blake's messy legal battle against Justin Baldoni and Wayfair Studios. And let's just say that the involvement of the Times made things a whole lot more interesting than anybody could have imagined. How did they get involved? Well, in December 2024, the Times published a juicy article and video titled, "We Can Bury Anyone," which seemed to give Blake's accusations an extra layer of legitimacy.
And Blake Lively's the bigger star, so on Baldoni's case, he's fighting for whatever credibility of a career he might have left.
This was no ordinary article. This felt like the Times was not just reporting on the allegations, but vouching for them. The timing was perfect for Blake, giving her case a major boost in the media. Everybody knows that when the Times speaks, people listen. If they were backing Blake's side, it could potentially change everything.
False or frivolous claims that are not based in fact or law. And that last one is really what Blake Lively's attorneys are trying to get at, saying that Brian Friedman is making false or frivolous claims that are not supported by facts.
But here's the catch. Fredman, Justin Baldoni's lawyer, was having none of it. He wasn't about to let the Times waltz in and paint this picture of Blake as the victim without getting called out. Fredman quickly fired back, accusing the Times of doing more than just their job as reporters. They were actively shaping the narrative. According to him, they weren't just sharing Blake's story, they were backing it as if it were already a proven fact. If you've been following this case, you know how critical the media's role can be, and that's exactly why Fredman was so fired up. He argued that the New York Times had crossed the line between journalism and advocacy, presenting Blake's claims as though they had already been investigated and verified rather than just being allegations.
Battle between former co-stars Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni went before a judge today. This afternoon, lawyers for the two parties appeared in court in New York for the first hearing amid that feud centered around their film.
What ruffled Fredman's feathers, though, was how the Times framed Blake's claims. Instead of saying Blake alleges this, they presented it in such a way that it seemed like they were endorsing her version of events. That's a big problem legally, especially when it comes to defamation cases. Fredman was sharp in pointing out that the Times wasn't just reporting on a legal dispute, they were almost acting as if the dispute was already settled in Blake's favor. The problem with that? The Times isn't supposed to play the role of the judge and jury. When a media outlet starts presenting one side's claims as indisputable facts, that's a dangerous game to play.